Welcome back to PGA Updates Hub, and before a single ball gets struck at Shinnecock Hills, there is already a storyline taking over every golf conversation across the world. This is not about who showed up. This is about who simply could not make it, and trust me, by the time you reach the end of this video, you are going to understand why this year's US Open field looks nothing like what fans were expecting only a few weeks ago. So let's get straight into it. Normally when people talk about a major championship field, the excitement is all about the big names walking onto the course this time around. The bigger story is who is missing from that course entirely. And the very first name on that list is someone who had done everything right. He fought his way inside the world's top 50. He had every reason to believe this would finally be his moment, and then his body betrayed him at the worst possible time. We are talking about Marco Penge. A lingering illness knocked him out before the tournament even started. And honestly, it's heartbreaking watching a player earn his spot the hard way, only to lose it to something completely outside his control. But as rough as that is for him, it is nowhere close to the most painful story we are about to get into, because the next one involves a streak that golf fans had quietly been admiring for years, without even realizing how rare it actually was year after year. Major after major, this player simply never missed. No headlines about him struggling to qualify, no near misses. Just pure, unstoppable consistency. We are talking about an incredible 33 consecutive major championship appearances. Think about that number for a second. Most professionals spend their entire careers dreaming of something close to that kind of streak. And then in the cruelest way possible, it ended. Tony Finau missed qualifying by a single shot. Just one shot, separating him from major number 34. And that right there tells you everything about how brutal and unforgiving US Open qualifying really is. One bad swing, one missed putt, and years of consistency can disappear in an instant. But even that gut punch wasn't the biggest shock of the qualifying process, because another fan favorite came painfully close, even closer than Finau did. This is a player fans were fully expecting to see competing this week. Somebody who battled and clawed his way through an entire qualifying process, refusing to let go of his chance. It all came down to a playoff, extra holes, one single opportunity to punch his ticket, and in the end, it slipped away. We are talking about Max Homa. His US Open dream ended in a playoff up in Canada, and just like that, another major name was officially out of the field. And at this point, you would think the list of absences was already long enough. But the next one isn't about qualifying at all, and it isn't about an injury. Either this one is about everything happening off the golf course. Phil Mickelson will not be teeing it up this weekend. His absence comes during a stretch where he has been at the center of constant discussion and controversy across the entire golf world. We are not getting into all the details here because we already broke that whole situation down in a separate video, which you can check out using the link in the description. But regardless of how anyone feels about the situation, a major championship simply feels different without one of the most recognizable faces in modern golf history. And if you thought that absence alone was the biggest shock of the week, think again, because another legend of the game won't be making the trip either. Every single major has a different atmosphere. When this man isn't around, the crowds feel different, the broadcast feels different, the entire energy around the tournament shifts. We are, of course, talking about Tiger Woods. Woods remains deep in his recovery process, and at this point, he isn't expected to play in the US Open or really anything else for the rest of the season. Fans everywhere keep hoping for one more comeback story. But for now, that wait simply continues. And while losing Tiger from the field is massive on its own, there were still more twists waiting just around the corner. One former major champion fought incredibly hard throughout qualifying, but ultimately fell just short. We are talking about Sergio Garcia. His failure to qualify means he will now miss 3 out of the 4 major championships this entire season. And when you think about how often fans have watched this man compete on the biggest stages throughout his career, that statistic alone is honestly stunning. Then came another close call. Somebody who tried not once but multiple times and still couldn't lock down a spot. Thomas Dietrich pushed hard through the process, but ultimately came up empty-handed, and alongside him, Rasmus Højgaard is also missing this year's tournament after being sidelined with an injury. But if you want one of the strangest storylines from this entire qualifying saga, this next one might top them all. Eugenio Chacarra made the decision to honor a previous commitment. Instead of entering qualifying at the time, barely anyone reacted to that choice. And then, almost immediately afterward, he turned around and won on the DP World Tour. And that is when the question started spreading like wildfire across golf forums and social media. What if he had entered qualifying instead? Could he have secured his spot in the field? Could he have become one of this year's biggest surprise contenders? Unfortunately, we will simply never get an answer to that one. By this point in the story, it had become impossible to ignore just how chaotic the road to this year's US Open had actually been. Some players withdrew due to illness. Others missed their chance by the narrowest possible margins. Some got sidelined by injuries, and others found themselves caught up in situations completely separate from competitive golf itself. But despite every single one of those stories, the biggest concern heading into tournament week might actually involve someone who is technically still expected to play, and that is exactly what makes this final storyline so fascinating. Because unlike everyone we have already discussed, this player isn't officially withdrawn, at least not yet. He's already won a US Open at this exact venue. He's built a reputation as one of the most feared performers in major championship golf, and heading into this week, plenty of fans considered him a legitimate threat to win it all. Then something completely unexpected happened up in Canada. We are talking about Brooks Koepka during the RBC Canadian Open. Koepka began dealing with a concerning issue involving his hand. At first, it didn't seem like a big deal, and then it started becoming impossible to ignore. Koepka later admitted that his fingers were going numb, and for an everyday person that might just sound mildly uncomfortable. But for a professional golfer, that can be an absolute nightmare scenario. Think about it for a second. Almost everything in this sport begins and ends with the hand's grip, pressure shot control, feel around the green's distance, management shaping shots, under pressure. All of it depends on your hands working the way they are supposed to. And suddenly one of the biggest stars in the entire sport was struggling with exactly that. As the tournament rolled on, fans and analysts noticed something clearly wasn't right, and the issue simply wasn't going away. Then came the moment that sent shockwaves through the golf community. Koepka ended up withdrawing. During the final round of the RBC Canadian Open, the hand problem had become serious enough that continuing on just wasn't a smart option anymore, and that single decision is exactly why concern surrounding Koepka heading into the US Open keeps growing by the day. This wasn't some off-season update buried in the news cycle. This happened just days before one of the biggest tournaments on the entire golf calendar, and now there are so many unanswered questions hanging over his name. Has that numbness actually improved? Can he grip a golf club with full confidence again? Will this issue resurface the moment real pressure kicks in? And maybe the biggest question of them all, which version of Brooks Koepka is actually going to show up at Shinnecock Hills? Because a fully healthy Koepka is genuinely one of the scariest players in any major field, especially at a course where he has already tasted victory. But if that hand issue keeps lingering, one of this year's biggest favorites could instantly transform into one of its biggest question marks. And that's right, there is a storyline every single golf fan is going to be watching extremely closely this week. The tournament hasn't even started yet, and the drama is already piling up. Major names are missing. Other players suffered absolutely heartbreaking near misses. And now, one of the most dangerous golfers in the entire field is walking in, carrying questions nobody saw coming just days ago.
We are going to find out very soon whether all of this turns into one of the defining storylines of the tournament or simply becomes another wild twist in an already unpredictable US Open week. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you like this video, subscribe to PGA Updates Hub, and turn on notifications so you never miss any major golf news or championship coverage. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you in the very next one.